Welcome to English Story Vault, ready to level up your English. Here we learn through stories, slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey. In the 1980s, Japan had an amazing economy. People felt very good about the future. Japanese companies were famous all over the world. Many people thought Japan would become the biggest economy. The stock market and land prices rose very, very high. It was a time of great wealth for some. This period is called the bubble economy because prices grew like a bubble. But a bubble cannot grow forever. Around the year 1990, the bubble burst. Prices fell very quickly. This was a big shock to the economy. Many people lost money. After this, Japan's economy did not grow for a long time. These years, roughly from 1990 to 2000 or beyond, are known as the lost decades. During these lost decades, the economy was often weak. Growth was very slow, or sometimes there was no growth at all. Prices for goods did not go up, or they even fell. Companies did not invest much money. People were careful with spending. What caused this long period of difficulty after such a strong time? What went wrong? This story will explain Japan's lost decades. We will learn about the reasons for the big boom in the 80s. We will see how the bubble burst and why it caused so many problems. We will look at the challenges Japan faced for 20 years or more. Understanding this time in Japan is important. It shows what can happen when an economy grows too fast and then stops suddenly. It has lessons for other countries, too. This story helps us understand a key part of modern economic history. 2. The Great Money Party. The 1980s were a very exciting time for Japan's economy. Things were going well. Many companies in Japan were doing great business around the world. It felt like a time of big success. In 1985, something important happened. Some major countries, including the United States and Japan, made an agreement. It was called the Plaza Accord. This agreement caused the Japanese money, the yen, to become much stronger compared to the U.S. A stronger yen meant that Japanese products sold to other countries became more expensive. This could hurt Japan's businesses that sold things abroad. To help the economy keep growing, Japan's central bank, the Bank of Japan, made a decision. They made it very easy for people and companies to borrow money. The cost of borrowing money, called interest rates, was kept very low. This was like making money cheap to get. Because borrowing money was so cheap and easy, many people and companies borrowed a lot. They used this money to buy things like company, stocks, and pieces of land. When many people want to buy the same things, the prices usually go up, and that is exactly what happened in Japan. Prices for company stocks went up incredibly fast. The main stock market index, the Nikkei 225, went up more than 4 times its value in just a few years. By the end of 1989, it reached a price it had never been before, almost 39,000 points. Land prices also went crazy, especially in big cities like Tokyo. Land in Tokyo became extremely expensive. Some small areas of land cost more money than houses in many other parts of the world. People felt very optimistic during this time. Money seemed easy to make. Prices for stocks and land just kept going up and up. People believed they would always get richer. This period of very high prices and great optimism was called the bubble economy. It felt like a big happy party where everyone had lots of money and felt like nothing could go wrong. People could borrow money, using their expensive land as a promise and buy luxury things. It was a time when dreams seemed to come true, built on the idea that prices would never fall. The party ends badly. The time of very high prices, the bubble, reached its highest point around the years 1989 and 1990. Prices for stocks and land were extremely high all over Japan. The Bank of Japan, which is the central bank, saw that things were going too fast. They decided it was time to try and stop the rapid increase in prices. So, starting in the middle of 1989, the Bank of Japan began to make it more expensive to borrow money. They slowly increased the interest rate. However, some people think this action came too late. Soon after the bank started raising rates, the prices began to fall. First, the stock market crashed. In just the year 1990, the stock market index, called the Nikkei, fell very fast. It lost about 1/3 of its value. After the stock market fell, land prices also began to go down. This fall happened more slowly than the stock crash, but prices dropped a lot, especially in big cities like Tokyo. By 1992, when stock and land prices fell, people and companies lost a huge amount of money. It was like a lot of wealth just disappeared. Experts say that the total amount lost was around 2 or 3 trillion US dollars. This was a very big number, like half of Japan's economy at that time. The falling prices caused serious problems for the banks. Banks had given many loans when land and stocks were very valuable. Companies and people used these high-value assets as security for the loans. But now the security was worth much less than the money that was borrowed. This meant that many people and companies could not pay back their loans. Banks suddenly had a lot of bad loans. This was the start of big problems for Japan's banks. 4. Years of no growth. After the big crash around 1990, the economy changed greatly. The fast growth stopped. For many years, more than 10, the economy grew very slowly. It was like walking instead of running fast. From 1991, growth was often only around 1% each year, or even less. This was a long time with little economic expansion. Prices for goods and services did not go up anymore. This was called deflation. Sometimes prices even went down a little. Deflation sounds good for shoppers at first, but it made things difficult for businesses. When prices fall, companies make less money. People also waited to buy things, thinking prices might fall more later. Because companies made less money and prices were falling, they did not raise workers' pay. For many, many years, people's wages stayed almost the same. Think about 30 years from 1991. The average pay for workers did not get much bigger. This was different from other countries, where pay was slowly rising. People felt poorer. Their pay was not growing, and they had lost money when stock and land prices fell after the bubble burst. So, people did not spend much money in shops or on travel. They saved their money because they were worried about their jobs and the future economy. This weak spending by people meant companies had fewer customers. With fewer customers and prices not rising, companies became very careful. They did not want to spend money on new factories, new machines, or new ideas. They did not invest in big projects because they were afraid the economy would not get better soon. Deflation and low demand made it hard for them to see a reason to spend. The stock market showed this lack of confidence clearly. After the big fall in 1990, the prices of company stocks stayed low for a very long time. For many years, the main stock index did not go back up to its old high level. Investors, both inside the country and from other places, did not feel excited about buying Japanese stocks. This made it clear that many people thought the economy would not improve quickly. This period after the bubble burst was very different from the exciting years before. It was a time of slow growth, prices staying flat or falling, low pay raises, and cautious companies not wanting to spend. It was called the lost decades because it felt like the country had lost its economic speed and power for many years. It was a challenging time for the economy and the people living in it. Banks in Japan faced a very big problem after the prices of land and stocks fell sharply. During the time when the economy was booming, many people and companies borrowed large amounts of money from the banks. They thought prices would keep going up forever, so they used borrowed money to buy more assets. But when the bubble burst and prices dropped a lot around 1990, these people and companies could not pay back the money they owed to the banks. The banks were left with many loans that were not being paid back. These were called non-performing loans, or simply bad loans. This was a serious problem for the banks because they did not have the money they were supposed to get. If the public knew how many bad loans the banks had, people would lose trust in the banks and the financial system. So the banks tried to hide the problem for a long time. They did not want to show how weak they were. They did not honestly write down the real value of the loans that would probably never be paid back. They hoped that maybe the economy would quickly recover or that the government would help them without showing the full problem. Sometimes, to stop companies that owed them money from completely failing, banks gave them more money. These companies were very weak. They were not making profits and could not pay their old debts. But the banks kept giving them new loans just to keep them from closing down right away. These companies were often called zombie firms. Like characters in a movie who are not fully alive, these companies were not healthy or profitable, but they were still operating because of the extra money from the banks. These zombie firms were a big problem for the whole economy. They stayed in business even though they were not efficient or creating value. This made it hard for healthy companies to grow and compete fairly. The zombie firms used resources like workers and money from banks that could have gone to new strong businesses with good ideas. They also kept prices low in some industries because they did not need to make a real profit, which made it difficult for healthy companies to succeed. Because the banks were hiding their bad loans and helping zombie firms, the banking system itself became very weak and unhealthy. It was not able to do its job well, like giving money to productive companies that had good plans. This situation lasted for many years and was a major reason why Japan's economy had a long period with almost no growth. The problem of sick banks and ghost companies made people lose confidence and stopped the economy from moving forward in a healthy way for over a decade. It took a very long time for the banks to deal with their problems and start lending normally again. This delay hurt the economy badly. 6. Trying to fix it. Government's role. The economy faced hard times for many years. After the bubble burst and prices fell, people looked to the government and the country's central bank, the Bank of Japan, for help. They hoped the government could fix the problems and make the economy grow again. One important thing the Bank of Japan did was to make borrowing money very cheap. They cut interest rates many times. Interest rates went down step by step until they were very, very low, almost zero. The idea behind this was simple. If it costs almost nothing to borrow money, businesses and people will borrow more. They can then spend this money, maybe on new buildings, machines, or just buying more things. This spending should make the economy grow faster. But even with very low interest rates, many businesses were afraid to borrow. They already had old debts, and the economy was still weak. So cheap money did not always lead to lots of new spending or growth. The Bank of Japan also tried new methods to help. One new idea was called quantitative easing. This meant the central bank put large amounts of new money into the banking system. They bought government bonds from banks. The hope was that banks would then have more money to lend to businesses and people, helping the economy move again. The government also tried to boost the economy. Using its own money, they increased spending on public works. This included big projects like building new roads, bridges, and other structures. This is known as fiscal stimulus, or government spending. The goal was to create jobs, give money to companies, and make the economy active. However, the government sometimes did things that made the economy slow down. At times, they decided to raise taxes. For example, they raised the tax on things people buy in 1997. This tax was raised again in 2014. Raising taxes means people have less money to spend after they buy something. When people spend less, businesses sell less, and the economy can slow down. Many people think these tax increases hurt the economy just when it needed to get stronger. Economic experts have looked back at this time. Many say that the actions by the government and the Bank of Japan were sometimes too slow. At the very beginning of the problems, the help did not come fast enough, and later the actions they took were often not strong enough to fix all the big problems. For example, the low interest rates helped, but they did not quickly solve the major issue of banks having many loans that companies could not repay. Government spending helped create some jobs, but also caused the government to have a lot more debt. So, even though the government and the central bank made many efforts, the economy did not recover quickly. The problems were very deep and hard to fix, and the path to getting better was long and difficult. 7. Old habits and new problems. Japan had many problems that were hard to fix. Some problems came from old ways of doing things. In the past, big companies, government workers, and politicians were very close. They often helped each other in ways that were not always fair. This system made it hard for new businesses to start and grow. It was difficult for old companies to change or for weak companies to close. People did not want to break away from these old habits. Also, Japan did not create many new, big companies or ideas in the way other countries did. Years ago, Japan was a leader in making things like cars and electronic goods. But when the world moved to computers, the internet, and smartphones, Japan was slower. New companies with exciting ideas did not appear as easily. The rules and the way companies worked made it hard to try new things quickly. This lack of new, important ideas and businesses meant the economy could not find new ways to grow strongly. Another big problem was the people of Japan. The number of old people became very large. More than 1 in every 3 people was over 65. The number of young people born each year became very small. This meant the number of people who could work was getting smaller. With fewer workers, it is harder to make enough things or provide enough services for everyone. It also means the government has less money from taxes to pay for things the country needs, especially with more old people needing help. The way people had jobs also caused trouble. It was not easy for companies to make changes to their workers. The old idea of having a job for your whole life made things stiff. Later, companies hired many young people for part-time or short-term jobs. These jobs often had low pay and no safety. It was also hard for workers to easily move to new, better jobs. This meant the job market was not flexible. These deep problems were like heavy weights on the economy: the old relationships, the lack of new big companies and ideas, the shrinking number of workers because people were older, and the stiff job market. All these things together made it very difficult for Japan to recover quickly from the problems after the bubble. The government tried different plans, but these important issues from inside Japan made the path to a healthy economy slow and full of difficulties for many years. 8. Lessons and the future. Japan's problems taught the world lessons. In the 1980s-90s, Japan seemed very strong, like it would be number 1, but then it fell behind. Other countries like China and South Korea grew much faster later. Their economies got bigger and people's pay went up more than in Japan. Because of the long period with no strong growth, Japan tried big changes. 1. Big plan was called Abenomics. This plan had 3 main parts. 1. The central bank gave out a lot of money to make it easy to borrow. 2. The government spent money on building things and other projects. They wanted to change some old rules for businesses and people. Abenomics helped in some ways. The stock market went higher. Companies made more money. Many people had jobs, so unemployment was low. The value of Japan's money, the yen, became lower, which helped companies sell things to other countries. Also, after many years, prices started to go up a little, not down. But Abenomics did not fix everything. The economy did not grow as fast as people hoped. Many companies made more money, but they did not give workers much more pay. People did not spend much. The big changes in rules for business were hard to make. Some changes happened, like new rules for how companies are managed, but they were often slow. The time of the lost decades had a lasting effect. Japan still has a lot of government debt. The number of old people is very high, and there are not enough young workers. Companies and banks are still careful about taking risks because of what happened before. It is hard to grow fast with fewer workers and cautious spending. Now, Japan is still trying to make things better. The government wants to help workers get higher pay. They are trying to make companies more open. They are looking for ways to deal with the aging population. These are big problems, and they take time to change. Japan's story shows what can happen when a big money bubble bursts and the economy does not recover quickly. It teaches about the problems of having too much debt, not fixing banks, and not changing old rules. It also shows how hard it is to make an economy grow again after many years of being slow. What do you think is the biggest lesson from Japan's lost decades? Please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.